Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining today's session on mining accessible content. I'm Amanda Pritchard, and I am joined with Carrie Tate, and we've got some great information to share with you today. I did just want to call out that we are recording, so you'll notice that unlike in a Teams live event, this is a little bit different. We're doing this as a Teams webinar. So your cameras and your microphones are muted. We do have the chat open. We'll be posting announcements in there shortly with information about resources that we're sharing today, as well as where this recording will be located. So you'll have access to all of that. Should you need live captionings, you can enable that if you select the three dots at the very top of your screen in Teams. You can select to have live captions turned on, and then we'll have transcriptions on and sent out after the event today as well. So I love that video in Minecraft because it just shows how beautiful it is when you design a world that is synchronized and that just comes together seamlessly. And I know that that particular video took a long time to develop and a long time to create and to build. But once it did, it was such a unique experience and an inclusive experience. And I hope that that's something that we can strive to create and to build at UT Dallas as well with the content that we're creating and cultivating and sharing. So we want to build that reputation as a positive place that promotes equity and inclusion. And one of the ways we can do that is through technology, and the technology that leverages that access to information for everyone that engages with it. I went ahead, I've asked Carrie Tate to come and set the stage for us today because she's the Director of Accessibility at UT Dallas. And she does this incredible work every single day, helping our students and our staff and faculty ensure that they have access to information they need to be successful. So, Carrie, if you would just share with us a little bit as to why accessibility is even important.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me here today. I am so excited about us having this kind of training today. And for one is that for a long time ago, if you go back even 5 years ago or even 3 years ago, a lot of times there was not anything out there to make it easy for people to do accessibility for others. And a lot of times we ended up having to do it in our office. And so, and what's so unique about this, it allows everything to be done up front instead of at the back end. So now we're able to set everything up so that it becomes what we call a universal design, is for everyone. And a lot of people do not realize that when you do not make an accessible document or anything that you're making form, what happens is if someone that is blind or someone with low vision is trying to use a screen reader, it does not read it. And so they end up having to rely on somebody to do it for them or to read it for them. And the whole goal is for everybody to be independent and to be able to use everything without having any barriers. So today, Amanda's going to show us some new techniques that have been out there, easy ways to do it. And really, it is amazing how simple it is. So, Amanda, show them your good work.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. We're going to jump in, and you're going to leave today's session with the knowledge about Microsoft tools. And that way we can work on building that success for everyone, regardless of their ability. And the tools we're highlighting can help all of us build a better world. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my PowerPoint. I'm sharing it in a little bit different view today, just because I do want you to be able to see certain things. If you attended this session in the fall, then we've got kind of a repeat of some of that information. But if you're like me, sometimes it takes a couple of times to get that information. So let me pull it up here. And I know it's not in full screen, and I know that's going to stress some people out, and it's going to be okay. I promise. I promise y'all. It's going to look a little different today. It's not like a normal session, okay? I'm moving some things around, maybe. My team doesn't want to join me here. Okay. So I'm going to start at the beginning. That usually is the best place to start. We're going to go through some information here. I'll go ahead and share it big screen for right now, but we will be jumping back and forth with it, different sizes, so that you're kind of seeing a little bit behind the scenes, because I do think that that is important when you're reviewing this content. So I know that we do have our chat enabled now. I'm going to ask Magdalite if you could pull open our chat announcements, please. And let's go ahead and post some of the links that we will be referencing in today's session so that our audience can have that as well. So I've already introduced myself. I'm Amanda Pritchard. I wanted to say the chat's open. You may have already seen the slide, so if you don't cheat, if you already saw it. But can y'all put in the chat a guess as to how many people you feel in the United States identify as having a disability? While we've got the chat open, why don't you go ahead and post your answer? It was on my slide, so you may have already seen it. And that's okay if you have. But if you want to go ahead and post in there, I think it's pretty interesting to see. Dennis gave a really good guess. 40% was a guess. Nice, Melissa. I like it. Gender said 30%. So we're getting some different numbers. Okay, great. Well, I'll go ahead and move on. 52%. Okay. So 26% of adults in the US identify as having some sort of disability. Those are only the ones that are diagnosed and that actually do identify themselves with that. So we could assume that that number is a little bit higher. I highlight this because I think it's important for us to recognize that number around us so that we are optimizing all of our content and communications to reach that diverse population that does exist. The more inclusive content gives people personalized access to understand that information. So keep that in mind as we're going through the session today. Okay. Raise hands. You can use a little raised hands feature at the top. This session gets to be a little bit more interactive because we're doing it as a Teams webinar. But if you use the raised hand feature, if you've used Accessibility Checker before. So I'm going to see who's got their hands raised here. Just a few. They're coming in. Okay. Okay, so I've got only about 4. I'm going to go ahead and shrink this down. Oops, I jumped ahead. I'm going to shrink this down because I need to show it to you in PowerPoint. So that's the whole reason I'm demonstrating it here. And thank you. You can lower hands. I'm going to demonstrate it here just so that you can see where this is. Accessibility Checker is just like spell checker. And I would assume that you have used spell check before, and this is no different. It should be used just as frequently as we use spell check to see what instances might be building some barriers to individuals from receiving and digesting our content. So from here, I put in the notes here, you can go to the review tab and you'll see the little icon at the top left here that says check accessibility. When I run this, it's going to run through all of my slides, all of my content, and it's going to give me these individual warning signs here that let me know what might be missing, what we need to fix. And when you click on it, it'll tell you exactly, I'll lean this way, it'll tell you exactly which slide, what the issue is, and it's divided up into different warnings. And some of these I designed on purpose so that you would see what the issues were. And great question, is the checker available in all? It's available in most of them. I was checking it in OneNote and I didn't find it, but it is available in Word and some other documentation too. A lot of these features that we're showing are applicable across platforms. So anytime you're writing or designing content, you should be able to find it there. Sometimes it's in a slightly different place. I am going to navigate to Word in a little bit after we do PowerPoint, and I'll show it to you there as well. No matter what, you can always, whenever you're in a Microsoft product, you can always search in the search boxes at the top if you're looking for something particular, and you can find it there. So don't be afraid to, if you can't remember exactly where to navigate. I know sometimes that's overwhelming, but you're able to look and find it through that accessibility or the search you can find accessibility through that search as well. So this will tell us the different things that are wrong or that need attention, and it will give us solutions too. So this is a quick check that you can run and get those ideas right away. I'm going to move on to alt text because that's one of the things that I wanted to highlight as well, because you can see in some of these, it's going to tell me suggested alt text, and it's going to tell me exactly which picture and which slide it has alt text missing. So I wanted to highlight this too. So automated alt text, there's a little bit difference in alt text and then automated, but first, I want to clarify the why behind alt text because I think it's very easy to miss. Most people need it for screen readers. If I have a special system reading my screen, it tells me a description of the image. This is for anyone that's visually challenged, but I want to extend that so that we're not just looking at it through that singular lens. This is also if you are somewhere and you have low data on your phone. If you're unable to download pictures, you're able to go and to navigate there in alt text and just read what that picture is about. So it's not, I mean, this is an accessibility to make sure everyone has access to what that picture is representing. So to change the alt text, which is what the screen would tell me is this picture is about, to change that, you can select on the picture and you can right click the alt text. So I'm going to bring it up. It always brings it up. In PowerPoint, it brings it up on the far right side as it does in Word. So these are all the same kind of shifts and changes that you would do in those platforms. Dennis asked if it's available in browser and standalone apps. Yes, it should be available in both. There is something I'm showing you later that's not on a Mac though, but I'm ready. So this is available, should be available in both. It's possible, depending on the version too, it's going to be located in different locations. So that's why I always call out this search box. If you can't immediately find it in the ribbon at top, you can search for it and you should be able to find that there as well. So the automated alt text here, automated alt text is what it generates for you. Sometimes that description is sufficient, but there's a lot of times where it's not sufficient enough. In Microsoft, if you put in a picture and you're pulling from internet, it's going to try to generate that for you so that at least there's something, right? Something's better than nothing. But it could be even better if you just navigate to alt text, right click on that picture, and you can put in a description. So you can see here, this is an auto-generated description. It's a screenshot of a video game. Well, yes, it is, but it's not just that. It has two characters looking over a cliff with a dog or wolf, I'm not sure which Minecraft creature that is, overlooking that cliff, and it's representative in Minecraft. So just think of ways that you could be descriptive and be able to demonstrate that. And that just helps to provide that enhanced accessibility, okay? I'm gonna do a quick poll while we're just thinking about this. And I'd be curious to hear from you all today. What does accessibility mean to you? So I've launched a poll. You'll see it appear in Teams. It should pop up either in the chat or it's going to pop up on your screen, just kind of blocking me, which is fine. But you can look there and go ahead and put in one word what you feel accessibility means to you. And spell check my poll. So I've got a couple answers coming in. I'm loving it already. First response is kindness. I see help, inclusion, transparent, connection. Amazing responses. I love this. Yeah, what does accessibility mean to you? And it means something different to all of us, which is why it can be a little challenging to describe it and to share it. Universal, accepted, people-oriented. These are beautiful answers. I love this. Equality, inclusivity, inclusion, inclusive. Yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you so much for answering that. Those are great responses and great perspective to have on accessibility. These are simple things that we all can do, simple changes that we can all implement to be aware of how we can better serve others and make them more included. And accessibility is not just it's not exclusive to somebody with a disability. As I mentioned, just with internet connection, it can be as simple as that. And a disability could be a permanent or temporary, but it's making sure everybody has access. Okay, raise hands if you've used Immersive Reader, because it's one of my favorite things. I've demoed it a few times, but I'm always curious to see if you've used it before. So use the little raise hand feature. I want to see who's used it. I only have 3. Okay, all right. Some of you may have lost where the raise hand feature is. I don't know, but we're going to, okay, it's a strong 3. It's a powerful 3. Thank you, 3 Musketeers. You can lower your hands now. I'm going to show this to you because it recently launched in PowerPoint, and PowerPoint's one of my favorite things as well. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it here. And I put in this slide just to describe, you can select any text on a slide. Okay, so we selected, we're going to right click it, and we're going to open an Immersive Reader. All right, so we're going to open this up in Immersive Reader. It takes just a second to load. So you should see the text that was on my slide is now enlarged on my screen. And what's great about this, it's not just for those with visual disabilities. It also reads it. So any neurodiverse student, anyone with learning a new language that may not be as familiar, anyone that doesn't know English as a first language, this is a way to help break down what we're communicating in those slides. So it can play for you. It can play and it can read it out loud. You can establish the voice settings as well as that volume and the speed. So if somebody is struggling to digest content, to be able to follow along, this is a great way to help break that down in a bite-sized portion. In addition, you can change these text sizes, whatever size you want. Immersive Reader, y'all, if you haven't used it, it's on all of the things. So on Sway, on OneNote, on Word, it's available in those things so that you can, in Forms, it's available, and that's why I let it also for Forms. It's available in all of those places so that you can get this content, and even if it's just a heavy document that you maybe don't want to read, you just want it spoken to you, and that's an easier way for you to process information, this is an alternative for you. And you can see that you can change the fonts, and then if your eyes feel strained, you can change those colors. And then if you are a non-native speaker, or if you are maybe in English and trying to look up certain information, it can highlight the different verbs or adjectives or nouns so that you understand the different parts of the text. And let's see here, it can also translate it for you. So if you happen to work with anyone, maybe at a school that has a huge international population that needs to access and maybe doesn't understand exactly what it is you're asking on your form, the form can be translated automatically for you into whatever language that you need to. And so you can have that translated and just make that just another simplified option for them to get access to that information. So that's a great tool, and it is embedded in all of those Microsoft products, which is so brilliant because they all synchronize just like that opening video to be able to get you that information. So I think based on how long we've been kind of remote or we've been doing these Teams meetings, we're all a little bit more familiar, I would hope now, with transcription. I'm going to go ahead and pull up this next one, and I will make this one bigger just because I feel like that one's a little hard to see. So it's going to start over. Remember this? It was so long ago. Okay. I'm going to pull up this transcription because shout out to Denison for helping me get this together today. We were working on transcription, and I just caught this little blurb from the transcript from our dry run yesterday because he brought up a brilliant point, and I know I'm in the way. I'll just go right to here, fine. He brought up a brilliant point that transcription is not just for in the meeting, but it's also important for, because it is that transcript. If you miss something that I say and you have the transcript open, which you can do in this meeting, you can scroll back and reread what I stated and get clarification on where to navigate, on where Immersive Reader is, or how to show that accessibility checker. Transcription is important, not just if you have a visual issue, if you're neurodiverse, if you have some learning issues with reading and being able to receive that information. It's great to have as record keeping, as a way of note taking and reference making. Transcriptions are awesome to have. Whether or not you are recording the meeting, you can always turn on transcriptions in a meeting and have a record of that transcript and have that as a reference for what happened in that meeting. You don't have to have meeting minutes. You don't have to have a full note taker, because Teams will do that for you and you have access to that content. But it is important too for anyone that maybe missed a portion of the meeting. It's making it more accessible to them. I embedded too an audio file, and just because I wanted to share that sometimes audio files, and this will come up, I'll escape out of here, this will come up in the accessibility checker too. You can embed audio files into PowerPoint. This one was just me recorded saying like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which if you don't, you can't. But it'll show up in the accessibility checker as well as having an issue because there's no captions here. So just remember, anytime you have anyone that has any kind of a hearing disability or hearing challenges, that if you are going to embed anything audio, try to make sure that it has closed captioning or transcriptions along with it so that they can follow along if the audio isn't coming through or if they just need to be able to read through that too. Okay. And Coral, if we want to turn chat back on as people are having questions, I don't mind if you want to do that real quick. I am scanning ahead here. Okay. Next slide. So if we want to turn on the chat in just a second, I want you to look at the slide. And I did say I did some things wrong. Kind of also gave a hint in the body of the slide. But what jumps out at you right now as the main problem with this slide? Again, I did things wrong on purpose, y'all, I promise. Something's wrong. Others will just blame it on this. In the chat, what do you think is wrong with this slide? Yes, the tiny green title. Yes, the color contrast. It's not only that font size, it is that contrast color. And I know so many of us, right, we have our favorite colors, we have our favorite things that you can see. And so when you're looking at a title should be big enough, it should be legible. So let's go in and correct that real quick. And it did show, let's see, in the accessibility checker, it should. It's been running a lot lately. But it does show, you know, that the title slide, everything is messed up. So we can go in here and we can change the size because that is an issue, right? We'll just make that really big. Then we can change the color. That color contrast makes all the difference in the world to be able to see and to be able to easily recognize that information. So you're absolutely right. While we're talking about color, contrast is fun, colors are fun. I love colors. I love all the bright, happy things in this world, but it's not always easy for somebody to see that information. So just keep in mind when you're designing that color should not be the only way that when you're presenting information, it shouldn't be the end all for how you're sharing that information. You want to make sure that you describe it as either at the top or the right, because they may not recognize that color, they may not see that color. So when we're creating content, talking about content, or sharing information, use multiple clues and cues for how to get somewhere. And I'm going to put in the, and then thank you. I think we got Mary Jo's question answered too. The 3 dots at the top, you should be able to select that and show transcription. I think it's very insightful, especially for some of the technical meetings, to be able to scroll back and see what they were talking about, because it takes me a little bit longer to catch on. So I can just scroll up there and grab that information and have that reinforcement. So it should be up there as well. So if you would like to follow along, you can use that. Okay. So yes, where was I going? I got lost. Scroll. I meant to bring up in this transcription slide too. Put in the chat whether you use headsets regularly or no headset. Headset or no headset. I want to see who uses what. Mine is just like permanently attached to me. I've gone to the grocery store with mine, y'all. I go to pick up. It's really embarrassing. It just lives on me. Okay, headset, no headset. I'm looking. Okay, we've got a couple of no headset. Yes, headset. There was like, yes, yes, no headset. Okay, this might blow your mind, but especially if you're presenting and you're trying to communicate information, a headset can be an accessibility feature, right? I know. Everyone's like, wait, what? It can be, because having that headset, having your voice closer to the microphone for when we're doing, like right now, I'm doing the live transcription, I'm doing live captioning, having your voice closest to the microphone to be able to quickly and easily understand what you're saying, to translate that too, if we're doing different translations, a headset can be an accessibility feature. If you are presenting, I highly recommend utilizing a headset. If my voice was carrying over to my computer to try to get across what especially if you have an accent, there could be some delays, there could be some confusion. It's not as easy for it to get that information across. So yeah, headset. And then, okay, I know today we have disabled your cameras. We've taken that joy away from you. Next question, camera on, camera off. Camera on, camera off. So now people are going to get scared of what their answer is, because I just told you an accessibility, one big OFF in all caps. Depends on the meeting, on most of the time, depends. And be sure the mic, that your mic doesn't cover your mouth. If you do have a mic, all of our teams certified the poly devices should allow for your mouth to be visibly seen, because that is a factor of lip reading. Which brings me to my next point. Camera on is an accessibility feature. I know. This is just mind-blowing stuff. Having your camera on in general presentations or group meetings, when you are trying to have that dialogue, that back and forth, having that camera on, you can pick up on social, emotional, physical clues, right? If somebody is just really upset, all of that is making sure that you have access to understand what that person's needs are. It also, if anyone is lip reading, allows them to watch who is speaking, to be able to identify them and to be able to lip read. They can't do that if your camera is off. So just another thing to consider as we are trying to reach more people and do what's best for the whole population of UT Dallas. Camera on can be just a simple little tip to make sure that you're connecting to that audience in a way that they can receive that information. Okay, so I'm making sure that I cover everything on color contrast. I think I did. Increase the font size. Just making sure I don't miss anything, because I get distracted. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the color contrast there too. I was just going to mention on this one, and I'll have to leave this way. As much of 8% of male population and 0.5% of female population have some degree of color blindness. So this brings us back to that point, that you need to have that high contrast between colors and patterns so that people can view the material. If there's any kind of visual impairment, including cataracts, those high contrast themes make it much easier to see that information and have less eye strain. So just be considering that, especially if you're telling somebody to navigate to the red button, that may not be received as easily by, if you were to say, from the top banner in the right-hand corner, it's a red button with an arrow pointing. So it's giving more words to what you're describing so that it's very clear and relatable to those individuals that need that information. Okay, perfect. All right, next slide. And this one, this one's gonna be, but I think I needed, I have to, let me see if I can share again. And, because I wanted to show one more, nope, not that, this one. I don't wanna play from the beginning. I don't wanna present live. We're gonna have to flash forward through these again. reminisce a little bit. I know it's up. Okay. Was doing this again wrong on purpose, right? Wrong on purpose. Transitions between slides, having those random movements, random animations can also be very difficult for accessibility purposes, especially if you're neurologically diverse. Having to focus on so many things moving erratically can be very difficult for a person to understand that pattern and to be able to follow along. So if you do use transitions or animations, use it very sparingly, use it consistently, and use it for a purpose. It's that randomization that can be very confusing. Okay, checking chat, jumping. Okay, perfect. I'm just scanning. Okay, I don't see any direct questions. I saw comments, which is great. I love that y'all are talking. Okay, I'm going to move on to meaningful hyperlinks. Yes, I did it wrong on purpose, and I hope that you can tell the one that's wrong versus the one that's correct. I hope that that is evident. So meaningful hyperlinks. Saying click here, I know that we think that that's an evident location of clicking that place. However, if you have any visual impairments or are using a screen reader, that's not helpful information to know where to click because they can't see where to click. So that's, and it's also just not an action. When you're using a screen reader, having some sort of descriptive text, learn more, or providing that actual hyperlink is can be the most helpful. So you'll see the one on the left. This is the wrong, I know, shocking. It's the wrong one. So click here and you see it's embedded. It's overlaid on top of an image. It's hard to see. It's hard to see it. It's hard to access it. It's hard to understand even why you're wanting to click there. Versus, I pulled this one off one of Microsoft's sites because I liked it. Versus this has a picture, but you're not relying completely on the picture for that content. It's just there if you want it. It breaks it down by the topic. It gives a synopsis of what you're going to be directed to, and then it gives you that call to action of what step to take to get that information. So this is a little bit different way, I know, than, oh, my mic, a little bit different way than what I use sometimes. And so I need to get better at that as well. But I thought this was such an insightful way to demonstrate how the hyperlinks are meaningful. I'm going to pull it back to y'all for a second and do raised hands. I'm curious, how many of y'all use UTD links? UTD.links. I'll wait and let those hands go up for just a second here. UTD links. Okay, got a couple. Not everybody though, still not everybody. Looks like about 8. So I'm just gonna drop this here too. When we're creating meaningful hyperlinks for our content as a way as an accessibility feature, you want to use something that's easy enough. If a screen reader, just imagine if it's being read out loud, okay? Imagine your link is being read out loud. So you want to use a link shortener. UTD Links is managed by UT Dallas. It UTDifies it. It's fun. It's free. And it's something that you can manage your links that way. So if you did have a long, like if you've done a live event, then you know the live event links are long and cumbersome and ugly. And if somebody had to read that out loud, have mercy on them. You want to simplify it. By putting it in a UTD link, you could just say utd.link/information, right? So consider having that as an option, as a link shortener, so that it's easier. And then you could put it in here too, and just say like UTD link/technology bar, and have that information available to the audience. And even a description as to where that link is taking them is very helpful, so that it's clear as to where they're being redirected to and what for. Okay, I have spent a lot of time in PowerPoint. I'm going to stop in PowerPoint. I'm going to just check if there's questions really quick. Okay, Dennis, great point. Best not to repeat the same thing, like saying learn more than once on a page, right? You don't want to have that same consistent information everywhere. You're absolutely right. And I use slides on our website as hyperlinks. with the alt text indicating to click for more information. So slides on the website, I think we'd have to just take a look at those alt text and be sure that that alt text references that full URL so that there's not a action to click here. That's what you want to avoid. And that URL is descriptive and the information is descriptive as to why would I be navigating there? What is it going to take me to? So great questions. Okay, I'm going to put some pressure on y'all now. Let's see, I'll launch another poll here. I know this one's going to come up. This one's a little bit more complicated, so I'll give you just a second to fill it out. But which of the following are examples of barriers for people with visual disabilities? We've talked a lot about visual disabilities. Take a look at the options and pick. You can pick multiple answers. There are multiple answers, so don't just pick one. But if you want to take a look at that, and I'll transition over here, just a second. Okay, I'm seeing some answers come in. So options were text and images that cannot be resized or that lose information when they're resized. So if you've ever seen a picture stretched down or information that's super stretched out and you just can't read or understand what it's saying. Images that do not have equivalent text alternatives. So that's the alt text that we talked about. That is a barrier. If you put an image out there and you have no alt text describing it, and that's important for those of us that manage social media as well, you need to have an alt text. If there's an image, alt text should be married to it at all times. That is a barrier for somebody who's not able to see that image. Inconsistent and overly complicated slide transitions, we talked about that. That's very hard, not only for visual, but for learning differences. If you do already have cataracts or blurred vision, it's hard to see that. Video content that does not have text or audio alternatives is actually an audio barrier for somebody that has an auditory issue. And then complex sentences that are difficult to read is a barrier too for those that have neurological, any kind of a challenge or difference there. So all of these are barriers. All of these are things that we need to break and to try to improve upon. So great job, y'all. I know those were tough. I took a quiz with that too, and I was like, man, they're really hard. Okay, so we're going to migrate from PowerPoint. We're jumping into Word real quick with a couple of accessibility features in here. I'm using my mic for this session, so I won't be able to live demo this. Also, it's acting up a little bit on me today, which is usually what happens when you have to live demo technology. But I'll go ahead and share this with you just real quick. If you have raised your hand, have you used the dictate function in Microsoft Word? You can use the little raise hand feature because I love this one too. Oh, yay, I've got a couple. Only two. So last year I had surgery on my elbow and I couldn't type for like 2 months. And I don't know about y'all, but maybe you can type one-handed. My brain could not compute that. So I relied extensively on dictate. So I'm in Microsoft Word online because if you go to office.com, you can get all of these tools there. You make sure that you have the latest information and it's synced so that everyone can collaborate on this document. But you'll see up here, I have the little dictate icon. So you can select that. Down at the bottom, it shows that it's trying to, oh boy, it's gonna get mad. It's gonna get mad because my Teams is using also my microphone right now. So it's like, wait, stop. But when you have that clicked on, it should be, anything that you say should automatically come up on screen. So just like voice to text, if you're doing a text message and transcribing it there, this works in Word. I would draft up all of my emails in Word and then just copy and paste them into Outlook. I would draft up any of my things I needed on OneNote by just using dictate and being able to copy and paste it wherever I needed. It's a great tool too. If you do struggle with writing, a lot of times we can speak more easily than we can write. This is a great tool to get those ideas and thoughts out. especially if you have a learning difference, to just be able to say them, and then you can go back and edit whatever you need to do. It's also great if you have elbow surgery and can't type. But that just is to show you that there's a lot of uses that you can use. You never know what you're going to need it for until you need it. And then transcription also is available. Underneath the dictate option is this little icon here for transcribe. And this one's kind of a fun one. I don't use it as often as I should. We'll do a new one. I know, you're mad at me, I know. So transcription is if you had feedback, let's say you were looking at my document and you had specific feedback you wanted to give me, you could start a recording here, and it's recording me now by just starting the recording. You could start a recording and give me feedback on, you know, great layout, there's a lot of information here. Thank you so much. Okay, so you could save it. It's uploading it to OneDrive, so you have that stored, and it'll save just like your Teams meeting recordings save and back up into OneDrive. This will save the recording of your audio, and you'll be able to, then you can determine if you want to add it to the document, if that's easier for you just to give a verbal feedback than to type your responses. Just an option for a shortcut. If you want to be able to get that audio, it can add it to your document. And then you can determine if you want the text that you spoke, so it can transcribe that, or if you want the speakers, the timestamps, and that audio file, everything on there, and you can embed it in your document so that if, let's say somebody from my team, if Denison was trying to give feedback, I could come on here and then just listen to his voice as what needs to change, what do I need to alter here. So just a couple of fun tools to make things a little bit more accessible and just more simplified for you. I love it. I use it a lot, just not in this meeting because it doesn't want to work for me today. The next thing I was going to call your attention to is editor. And yes, I spelled it wrong on purpose, okay? So editor, you're probably very familiar with this, but your editor can check on any spelling, grammar, and give you insights as to just your speech, your speech in general. So it can give you those very clear insights on how you need to change or suggestions to improve your document. So it's a bit more enhanced than just the spell checker that we're used to, but you are able to go there and get some options. Okay, I don't know where that came from. Okay, so predictive text. Predictive text helps you fill in the blank. You've probably seen this in Outlook. Okay, if you've used Outlook and you're typing a message to somebody, let's see if it'll work for me. Now when I'm doing it on the spot. Okay, well, it's not gonna work for me on the spot because it knows I'm doing a live demo. But typically when you start typing, and if it's a commonly used phrase or something that it knows that people say a lot of, then it's going to pull that up as a suggestion for you. Then you just can hit enter and move along. So it's using that AI to kind of pre-fill your thoughts and have that suggested text there for you so you can fill out your document a little bit faster. I promised I would get back to the alt text. So alt text in Word as well. If you click on the image, you'll see the banner at the top just changed. I'm going to click off of it so you can watch that again. When you click on the image, the banner at the top is going to change. And then you can see there, you have the option to add alt text. Depending on the size, I'm zoomed in a little bit today just to make it easier to see. Depending on your size, you might have to click the 3 dots at the top, which stands for more information. Like Microsoft's pot of gold, you just dig down there and you're able to get more information. But from here, again, everything comes on this right side panel anytime you're trying to edit anything in Microsoft. But from here, you could add a description. Panda that is adorable, add a little description there, and that way your image is going to have alt text. And you do want to make sure and include that so that anybody that has a screen reader is unable to download this image. Maybe they're just having terrible reception because they're a spring break in the mountains or something, and you want to be able to know what the picture is. Then you can do that on alt text as well. I'm going to pause here. So we went over a couple of things in Word. I'm going to pause here to see if there was any other questions. I'm not seeing any. I'm going to scan ahead. My notes are refreshing. I think the last thing that I was going to take you to is what I promised Dennis, that it is in Windows 10 that I'll be showing the next thing to you, the final thing. If you've noticed, anybody noticed, raise hand. Have you noticed how big my mouse is and my cursor, and then it's blue? Anybody notice that? You do now. See how big it is? Yeah. Okay, well, 2 people noticed, and they're okay. That's good. But it's really, really big, and I do that on purpose. So I'm going to pull up here from my desktop, looking at those settings here. You can type in ease of access. This is not the same as on a Mac. We are doing a recording, and we're going to supplement this session with how to get there on a Mac. A Mac has some of these features, but it's not the same way to navigate there. So this is Windows 10, just so everybody's aware. So I want to make sure that that was clear. So there you can see ease of access is this whole control panel where you can make different settings and changes. And it's going to, of course, pull up over here. So I'll make it pull up over here. So I'm going to go over these just real quick, just so you can see. And I don't know that I can immediately magnify this, but I just want in general to show you the location of some of these items. So particularly for mouse pointer, so if you watch here, I can change the size of it. I try to make it a little bit bigger, especially for demos, because if I'm trying to direct you to something, I want to make sure that you can see it. In addition, you can change the color. That color contrast, again, can help anybody with any kind of a visual difference or disability. But from here, you can change those items. Everything in this ease of access is designed to help make content more accessible, not just for you using the computer, but also if you're presenting and sharing information. So please do think of this as a two-way street, that this is to help design it so that if you are sharing information, how would other people best receive that and be able to see that? If you haven't used high contrast colors, I'm going to see if it'll do it well. Oh, good, it was fast. You can immediately turn it on and off, and then there's different high contrast themes too, depending on what type of color or overlay you're trying to understand. So and then you can pick from a couple of different themes here. So you can see that changed very quickly. So that's a quick way to turn on your high contrast. Let's see if it'll go off as quickly. Okay, great. So you can change those colors there. Also audio. This is important too. If you need mono audio, you can turn this on. If you need to turn both the left and right just to a singular input, you're able to do that there to make those adjustments so that you can hear better. If you need to adjust your system's volume, that's also here. Closed captioning. This is not the same as closed captioning in Teams, but in general, closed captioning on your screen, you can change the way those captions, the colors come in. So if you see, you can change it there. You can change, if you want it to just be a faded look, how you're receiving this information. So this is really important too if you work with students or coworkers who may be not familiar with these settings. If you see anybody like squinting at their screen or trying to read something, these are quick changes that you can do to help enhance so that they're able to see that better. But you can change all of those effects on captioning there. So yeah, I think those were the main things that I wanted to show you. And then mouse, I guess it's really just the mouse pointer. And there are additional settings that you can drill down to as well, depending on how fast you want your cursor to move. And then, or if you need it to track a little bit more slowly so you can see where you're going. But these are all accessibility features that are already built into Windows that just allows you to have a little bit better navigation and movement there. All right, I'm going to jump back in the chat just to make sure. Dennis is already on it. Awesome. Okay, I don't see any questions. I'll put another poll up too, as we're kind of finalizing our polls here. What are ways to increase inclusion using technology. So these are some questions that hopefully you've learned some new options, some new alternatives today. I'll go ahead and stop sharing if I can find the right one to click. I'm up like 4 times on my screen. I'll stop sharing that and I'll give you a chance to answer, but ways to increase inclusion using technology. So to develop this, and you can pick more than one again, develop systems and structures that most interest you, a foundation of routinely checking on with your group with assessments or questions, promoting online communication through chats and through polls, customizing your computing experience through that ease of access center, asking your audience or students if there's ways to improve your content to ensure that they have access to that, and then enable transcription only if you're recording a meeting. Which of these do you feel are some ways that you might be able to increase inclusion? I'm filling it out too. See if I get it right. Okay, brilliant. I'm seeing those results now. But yes, asking questions, doing assessment. Microsoft Forms is actually an accessibility tool, whether you realize that or not. Being able to have those quizzes, polls like we do in this meeting, surveys are all also an accessibility feature, because the goal would be that you're asking, that you're checking in, that you're verifying that those people have information and can relate to it and ensure that they're able to follow along, right? Asking if, yes, okay, beautiful. Customizing your experience. You need to be able to use your machine, your devices to the best of your ability. So customize it in a way that works for you. You have that ability to do that. And for transcription, it's not just for recording a meeting, it can be for any time. Use it, make sure you have that backup file. That's really helpful to have information on that. Okay. I think I covered just about everything. I'm going to give it just a second in case there's any questions. I did want to see a raised hand. If anyone here has a class team, which is a little bit different. It's typically faculty members have a class team, because there is an accessibility pointer in there that I could show real quick, but I don't actually have any faculty. No, okay. Katrina does. All right, Coral, if you are on, if you can go ahead and enable mic and camera in case anybody has a last minute question. Megdalite, if you will go ahead and share our last slide, because speaking of assessments and getting feedback, we do welcome any information that you would like to share about today's session, any information that you have or feedback in general on how we can improve. We've got a copy of the QR code on the screen now, or we also will have information in the chat. So you can just click that link if you want to, or it's utb.link/survey. If you would just like to hand type that in, that gives you a couple of different options of ways to get to that information. I'm not seeing any questions, so I thank you all for attending and for giving us this opportunity to have the discussion. I believe, Coral, did we get everybody unmuted? Yes, I think so. So I'll go ahead and close with saying that OIT is here to help. If you ever need us, please reach out. We're always looking for ways to enhance our services and to better partner with our campus community. I will stay on for just a couple more minutes in case you do want to unmute, or if you have any additional questions, we're here for you.